Standing at my daughter's grave, I felt a heavy weight on my heart. She had left us much too soon. Suddenly, I noticed a little girl crying beside the headstone, tears running down her face. "I miss her so much," she whispered. Puzzled by her presence, I quietly asked, "How did you know my daughter?" Her whispered reply was enough to shake me completely. The revelation was unexpected and left me questioning everything I thought I knew about my daughter. Unable to shake the encounter off, I felt drawn to find out more about the little girl. I decided to make a trip to the local orphanage. Maybe they had seen her before, or could offer me some clue. The staff welcomed me kindly, eager to help, but they drew a blank when I described the girl. Not giving up, I extended my search into the neighborhood, asking around. Despite asking at every corner store and chatting with local folks, no one could offer any clues about the mysterious girl, not a single hint. The whole situation left me more puzzled than before. Days went by, but my questions remained unanswered. Determined to uncover more, I returned to my daughter's grave, hoping this time maybe the little girl might show up again. With a hopeful heart, I found myself once more standing by my daughter's grave. The sun was sinking, and the gentle breeze rustled the trees around me. I paced back and forth for a good while, scanning the area in hopes of catching a glimpse of those familiar, tiny footsteps. Just as the shadows began to lengthen, I convinced myself to wait a little longer. Just as I was ready to leave, the sound of soft footsteps caught my attention. Turning around, I saw her, the little girl, standing a few feet away. She looked at me with surprise, not fear, just a hint of wonder in her eyes. I stood still, showing I meant no harm. Seeing her here again filled me with a mix of emotions I couldn't quite put into words. Trying to ease her, I offered a warm smile and said, "Hello there." She hesitated, her little hands fiddling with the edge of her dress. "Want to talk?" I gently asked, sensing her reluctance. My way of speaking was calm, assuring her that she had nothing to worry about. A sense of peace settled around us as I hoped our chat would clear the mysteries clouding my heart. The little girl stayed quiet, so I chose not to push her. Instead, I began sharing stories about my daughter, trying to bridge the gap between us. There were tales of her as a child, playing and laughing, stories full of warmth. Bit by bit, this seemed to put the girl at ease. I hoped that sharing these pieces of my heart might encourage her to open up. To my surprise, the little girl started to chatter, her words full of joy and fond memories. She spoke about fun times she had spent with my daughter, and I was amazed at how much joy those moments seemed to bring her. Did they meet often? I wondered. She talked about a park nearby where they used to play. Hearing this, it all felt a little less strange. The girl seemed to light up talking about the park. It was a place my daughter had loved since she was a child. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she asked if we could go there together. "Do you want to go to the park?" she asked. I agreed, sensing my daughter's spirit was somehow present in this little girl. Maybe visiting the park would bring us both some peace. We decided to head over to the park together, a place she seemed to love. The park was a perfect spot for laughter and memories. As we walked, I noticed how her face brightened up. The cries from before seemed like a distant echo. Sitting on the swings, she giggled and played. There, in that moment, some of the heaviness in my heart started to lift. Watching her play brought back memories of my daughter running around that very same park. She moved with the same kind of joy and freedom. The echoes of past laughter now seemed alive in this little girl. Her carefree spirit filled me with a warmth I hadn't felt since losing my daughter. It was as if my daughter's essence was playing along with her, their joys intertwining. After spending time on the swings and slides, we found a bench to rest on. Relaxing comfortably next to each other, she looked up at me with curious eyes. Out of the blue, she asked, "Did you know about me?" Her question took me by surprise, catching me off guard. I paused for a moment, unsure of what she really meant or how to answer her. I took a guess and assumed she meant if I knew her as one of my daughter's friends. Maybe they had regular meetups at the park. I didn't know, sweetheart, but I'm glad we've met now, I replied gently. She seemed to think about my words, her small hands resting on her lap thoughtfully. Her question lingered in my mind, making me wonder what more there was to know. She nodded at my answer and sat quietly, as if processing something important. It felt like she had more to say, but wasn't ready yet. Silence hung between us for a bit, giving me the sense she was holding something back. I decided not to press her. Her calmness now was a big shift from the tears earlier. It was clear she had many layers I was yet to uncover. Curious to know more, I gently asked, "Do you have other family you stay with?" She stayed silent, and for a moment, her eyes locked with mine. After a bit, she shook her head quietly. Her serious expression said a lot, even though her words didn't. I felt a need to understand her situation better, hoping to find answers that could help her. Before I could ask anything further, she shifted the conversation to a new topic. She began talking about her favorite ice cream flavor, cleverly steering the chat away from my questions. Realizing she wasn't ready to open up more, I followed her lead and let the topic change. We continued visiting the park, sharing simple joys and stories, while respecting the boundaries she set between us. As weeks went by, each visit revealed small tidbits of her life. She shared stories of her days, mentioning a foster family she stayed with nearby. It became clear the park was a special place for her. Each detail she offered, though small, helped form a picture of the life she was living. Every new piece left me wanting to understand more about her world. Talking about her foster family, I sensed they were kind to her, yet something felt incomplete. Whenever I asked about them, her stories were vague, leaving many gaps. There were hints of care, but also a distance that was hard to ignore. The mystery surrounding her life pulled at my curiosity, urging me to find out more about her past and the path that brought her here. Determined to learn about her circumstances, I took a trip to the social services office. My aim was to gather any information that might shed light on her background, but due to privacy rules, they couldn't share much. Frustrated but not defeated, I left with more questions than answers. It was clear that the little girl's story was a complex one, wrapped in layers I was eager to uncover. After sharing my connection to the little girl and explaining my daughter's passing, I stood before the officer, hopeful for assistance. She nodded understandingly and told me she would check records to try and help find some answers. As she jotted down notes, her eyes showed empathy, and I felt a little lighter. Leaving the station, I had a tiny spark of hope, knowing someone was willing to help untangle this mystery. Exactly a week after my visit to the station, my phone buzzed from the officer's call. My heart skipped a beat as she mentioned having potential leads about the little girl. Listening to her words, a sense of hope filled me. I might finally uncover some answers. Without waiting too long, we arranged to meet at her office to discuss whatever information she managed to find. Walking into the officer's office, my eyes fell on the thin file she held out to me. It wasn't much, but I could sense there might be valuable leads inside. She encouraged me, saying, "Let's take a look together." We carefully went through the contents, finding bits and pieces related to the girl. Though sparse, the information painted a small picture of her story. The file revealed the girl had a history of short-term foster placements. The officer suggested I visit her current foster parent to discuss everything further. Grateful for the lead, I decided it was important to connect with the foster parent and maybe learn more about her current situation. Determined, I made a plan to meet with them soon and hopefully fill in some of the blanks. Meeting the foster parent turned out to be insightful, as they were open and friendly. During our conversation, they shared glimpses of the little girl's life, which surprised me. There was more to her past than I initially thought. Her life story was beginning to unravel before me, and hearing these details left me even more determined to learn the truth behind the little girl's connection to my daughter. What caught my attention most during the visit was a stuffed animal the girl cherished. It bore an uncanny resemblance to one my daughter had as a child. The foster parent spoke of how much the little girl loved it, never parting from it, even for a moment. Seeing something so familiar started to weave connections in my mind, making me wonder just how deep her bond with my daughter went. Looking at the familiar stuffed animal, I couldn't help but think of the possibility that my daughter and the girl might have shared it. How had she come to possess something so precious to my daughter? The question stirred my curiosity even deeper. Inside, I felt this small discovery was only beginning to reveal the depth of their relationship, driving my eagerness to learn more about their connection. Deciding to bring the toy to the park, I hoped it might jog the girl's memory. As we walked closer, her eyes lit up at the sight of the stuffed animal I carried. The happiness that broke across her face filled me with warmth. Her reaction to seeing the toy told me it held significant meaning for her, and I was eager to listen to her story. Seeing her hug the toy so tightly, I watched a wave of familiarity wash over her. There was something almost magical in the way her eyes sparkled. I asked gently if she remembered where she got it. Without hesitation, she replied softly that my daughter had given it to her, a revelation so huge it left me buzzing inside. Now I knew there was more I needed to uncover. Her words confirmed what I hoped, albeit unexpectedly. My daughter had entrusted this girl with a piece of her childhood. I promised then that I would do everything in my power to uncover the girl's past, seeking answers both for herself and to honor my daughter's memory. It felt right to embrace this connection and learn more about how their stories were intertwined. Feeling more curious about their connection, I decided to dig deeper. Each little discovery pushed me to know more. Determined, I set out on a mission, asking around for any clues about the little girl's link to my daughter. It was no longer just about finding answers. It was about understanding how a special bond had formed between them, a bond that only seemed to get more mysterious. To learn more, I decided to reach out to people who had been part of my daughter's life. Friends and coworkers were the starting point. Every phone call felt like a step closer to answers. As they shared stories and snippets unknown to me, I realized there was much I didn't know about her life. It seemed my daughter had led a life full of surprises. They described her as someone full of kindness, but with a side she kept hidden. It seemed she had more to her life than the family saw. One old friend recalled how my daughter volunteered at a community center. That piece of information intrigued me. What was she doing there? It felt like another puzzle piece had dropped into place, giving me hope in solving the mystery. The idea of visiting the community center was too tempting to resist. Upon arrival, I was greeted warmly by the staff. They remembered my daughter fondly and spoke highly of her kindness. Listening to their stories, I discovered more sides of the woman she had become. Her hard work and dedication to helping others showed how much she cared, and it was heartwarming to see her impact. Through the tales at the center, I learned my daughter had spent time with many children there, including the little girl. Knowing this made me happy, yet puzzled. Why this particular girl? What drew them together? The new details were both heartwarming and mystifying to me. I felt closer to understanding their bond, yet more curious about what made their connection so unique. When I asked the staff about their connection, they guessed it might have been just her generous nature. My daughter was known for helping out those in need, especially children. Still, something didn't quite add up in my mind. I left with a sense of warmth, but also with the knowledge that their connection held a depth I was only beginning to scratch the surface of. At the center, one of the staff members hinted at a deeper relationship between my daughter and the little girl. Hearing this, my curiosity piqued, and an urge to unravel it all grew stronger. What lay beneath their apparent bond? With more questions swirling in my head, I promised myself I would not rest until all pieces of the puzzle fit together seamlessly. While visiting the community center, I stumbled upon an old art project of my daughter's. It consisted of different paintings that told stories about family. Each stroke of paint felt like a glimpse into her heart, revealing her feelings. As I admired them, a strong connection to the little girl was painted across the canvases. My daughter's work hinted at something deeper between them. One painting stood out more than the rest. It showed a woman and a child who strongly resembled the little girl. The piece spoke volumes, suggesting an unspoken connection between my daughter and this child. The similarity was striking, and I felt that it had to mean something significant. This realization made me more eager to learn the full story behind their mysterious bond. With my heart full of questions, I knew I had to dig deeper into my daughter's past. I decided to head home, planning to look through her belongings for clues. Maybe hidden among her things, there were pieces that could reveal what I was missing. The hope of unveiling their shared story fueled my determination as I geared up for this new chapter in my journey. As I sorted through my daughter's belongings, I stumbled upon a collection of letters and cards. This treasure trove shared tales of her life, but surprisingly, it said nothing about the little girl. Yet in a hidden pocket, I discovered photos of my daughter with the girl, their smiles wide and pure. It was a snapshot of their camaraderie, begging the question of how deep their bond truly ran. Flipping through the pictures, it became clear their connection was special. Seeing their joy in those captured moments left me deeply curious. I was driven to dig further into their past, to unravel the events that brought them so close. The familiarity shown in these images suggested an enduring link, one that I hoped to understand better as I embarked on this heartfelt exploration. This newfound mystery compelled me to search more fervently. My daughter had left behind pieces of a secret life, and I was determined to put them together. Her secret seemed to be inching closer to the truth, just out of reach. Each clue fueled my curiosity, driving me to seek out answers waiting to be uncovered, hiding in plain sight, somewhere within her life's story. The photographs displayed a deeper side of their connection. In some images, my daughter held the girl lovingly, their closeness suggesting more than just a casual bond. Every picture painted a touching tapestry of affection, showing them as if they were family. This discovery added layers to my quest, as I longed to know the story behind the warmth captured in these still moments. I began wondering if what they shared was deeper than friendship. With this question in mind, I gathered a few photos and returned to the little girl. Sitting with her, I gently showed her the pictures. "Do any of these moments look familiar?" I quietly asked, hoping for a glimpse into the reality of what they shared, yearning to learn more through her eyes. As the little girl looked at the photos, her expression changed from surprise to sadness, hinting at hidden memories these pictures might hold. The shift in her eyes told a story. I softly asked if she knew those moments, hoping she would share a piece of her heart. Her quiet nod spoke volumes, as I realized she might hold the missing pieces to this puzzle. In a quiet voice, she shared memories about the days captured in the images. These stories unveiled more about their relationship. Listening, it struck me how deeply connected they were. Every word she spoke brought them alive in my mind. I began to appreciate their bond, thinking maybe their journeys were intertwined in ways I was just beginning to comprehend. With each different memory the girl shared, I began to piece together the puzzle of their lives. It felt as if each snippet of information was a vital piece, slowly forming a clearer picture. These beautiful connections began taking shape in my mind. Although I was starting to see some answers, I knew that the whole story hadn't yet been revealed. Even with the growing mosaic of their connection forming in my mind, Something critical was missing to complete their story. I found myself pondering the missing piece, wondering what lay beneath this surface of shared moments. The more I discovered, I realized how much I didn't know. It became clear I had to find what was hiding between these lines of their lives. Recognizing I needed richer context, I decided to meet with my daughter's closest friend. On the day of our meeting, I hoped they could shine a light on the questions swirling in my heart. They might hold the key to understanding what I was missing. With eagerness for clarity, I sat with them, ready to dive into tales of the past and bridge this mystery. My daughter's friend welcomed me warmly and expressed deep sorrow for my loss. She listened patiently as I shared the photos I found and explained my theories about the little girl's connection to my daughter. Her empathy was comforting, and I felt a sense of relief talking to someone who understood her. I hoped her insights could finally unlock the mystery surrounding this little girl and bring some clarity to both our lives. Sharing the picture sparked something in her. As she glanced at the photo of the little girl, her eyes widened in recognition. Her reaction made my heart race, as if we were about to reach a breakthrough. She hesitated, but then confirmed they had secret visits. Those days became precious memories she couldn't forget. Knowing they had known each other all along brought a mix of emotions. It was surprising to learn that she knew about the girl's unique connection to my daughter. Yet there seemed to be more she wasn't disclosing. She hesitated, her face showing signs of a long-kept promise. I could tell she wrestled with the idea of revealing more, but something was holding her back. I sat silently, aware that these answers might change everything I thought I understood. In a moment of gentle persuasion, I encouraged her to trust me enough to share what she knew. Taking a deep breath, her eyes settled with a newfound determination. She began opening up, sharing a tale that weaved together threads of their bond. Listening closely, each word she spoke painted a clearer picture of the relationship they shared, one I was eager to fully understand. Her words touched me deeply and spun my world upside down. They held a weight I wasn't entirely prepared for, altering perceptions I'd held about my daughter's life. It struck me how much had existed beyond my view. Her insights and honesty left me questioning everything and feeling an overwhelming need to continue untangling this intricate web my daughter left behind. The surprise revelation from my daughter's friend took me off guard. She shared that my daughter had confided in her something very personal. The knowledge carried a sense of intimacy, deepening the mystery between the girl and my daughter. As she continued, I could see the weight lift from her shoulders. It seemed she was pleased to finally let go of this guarded secret. She revealed that my daughter had trusted her to keep silent about this secret, even when questioned. I could feel the years of burden she had carried. The responsibility seemed immense, and I respected her loyalty. But it left me pondering the significance of what my daughter had chosen to hide. Her confession hit me with the realization of how family ties could be complex and deeply intertwined. I knew I had to meet the little girl again. With the newfound knowledge, I went to the park, hoping to see her. Spotting her on the swings, I approached carefully, weighing my words. As we talked, I gently introduced the topic of her connection to my daughter. The conversation was as delicate as a tightrope walk, each word measured to help her understand her importance in this story. I sat with her, with hopes of sharing something crucial. "You were very special to my daughter," I began, trying to gauge her reaction. Watching her face, I wondered if she comprehended her true connection to my daughter. Although my heart pounded with anxiety, I wanted her to know the depth of the bond they shared, hoping this knowledge would offer her a sense of belonging. Her eyes met mine, holding a wistful glint of understanding and vulnerability. Though she didn't say much, the silence spoke louder than words could. In that taut moment, a shared bond between my daughter, the girl, and I was acknowledged. Our connection grew clearer with the waves of silent emotions exchanged between us. I felt a step closer to piecing together this heartfelt, intricate tapestry. Standing there with the little girl, I realized this bond was something special. Embracing it could be the beginning of a new chapter for both of us. There was an unexpected joy in this connection, a feeling I hadn't anticipated. The weight of confusion began to lift, leaving room for hope and understanding. It was as if the universe had intertwined our paths for a reason, and I knew it was something I needed to embrace wholeheartedly. When she whispered, "I'm your granddaughter," it almost knocked the breath out of me. I could hardly believe my ears. I stood there feeling the world shift beneath my feet. Her words hit me like a wave, a truth I never saw coming. The little girl I had been trying to understand was, in fact, a precious piece of my daughter's story. It was a moment of clarity in the midst of all my searching. In that moment, everything seemed to click into place, like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. My daughter had indeed kept a part of her life hidden, and now it was out in the open. It wasn't just about the discovery itself, but what it represented. A deep sense of belonging and completion. This new chapter was more than a continuation. It was a revelation that breathed purpose into the days ahead. I wrapped my arms around my granddaughter. Tears of relief and joy filled my eyes. This embrace was a moment of redemption, a turn from the somber to a path lined with newfound hope. My quest had taken a beautiful turn, transforming uncertainty into a treasure of family ties. This girl, no longer a mystery, had become a symbol of healing and a bond etched with love and connection. Together, we both mourned and celebrated the parts of my daughter we knew and loved. Connecting through our loss and discovery, a strong bond formed between us. Every day spent together added layers of trust and understanding. It was this shared journey, filled with lingering memories and new beginnings, that solidified the bond we were creating. Through each passing day, our connection grew even stronger, knitting us tightly into a family. Sitting side by side, we began exploring stories of her mother, my daughter. Each tale shared was a piece of her legacy. She listened intently as I shared memories of my daughter's life, her dreams, and her laughter. These stories became a testament to the lasting spirit my daughter left behind. For both of us, reminiscing brought comfort, allowing us to feel her presence in every word spoken. We found solace in these cherished stories, honoring my daughter's memory as we moved forward together. This reunion was filled with love, and with every story, we painted a picture of who she was and would always be. It served as a reminder of the beautiful legacy she left behind. Embracing these moments allowed us to face the future with understanding and hope, knowing that family threads eternally bind us. The journey of uncovering my granddaughter's identity had reached a sweet and fulfilling end. The discoveries we made began to fill the void left by my daughter's passing. The new bond we shared brought happiness and contentment, splendidly cementing our connection. Each step of the journey had led us here, and although it was a challenging path, it was one graced by love, healing, and newfound family. I noticed traces of my daughter in my granddaughter's gentle gestures and joyful laughter. We created new memories while cherishing old ones, ensuring my daughter's legacy lived on. It was almost like seeing her spirit reborn. Each day spent together was a step in keeping her essence alive, as my granddaughter's kindness lit up our lives with love, much like her mother had done before. The revelation at the graveyard was merely the beginning of an incredible journey. What started as a hidden tale gradually evolved into a narrative filled with love and healing. Through the stories, the tears, and the laughter, we forged a path united by shared bonds and memories. This journey had taught us both what family truly meant, and as our story continued, it brimmed with hope and promise.